and welcome to CoinDesk Live. This is day 2 of our coverage. Coming to you from Rio de Janeiro, we are at Stellar Meridian 2025. Now, if you tuned into our programming yesterday, we had a plethora of conversations about stable coins, real-world adoption, and what's happening right here in Latin America. We're going to continue those conversations today and even bring you some big news announcements, so stick around. You won't want to miss them. I'm Jen Sanasi, here with my co-host, Sam Ewan. Sam, day 2, here we go.
Day 2, yes. We had a great day yesterday. Wonderful night last night. Stellar hosted this party. There was a samba band that played. It was fantastic. Just like the vibes are very, very, very deep here. So many developers in the house. We learned yesterday how much there's a development community in Brazil specifically, and a lot of them showed up, and I was just really excited about it.
Well, we learned yesterday about the diversity in Brazil and the multiculturalism that really contributes to developers wanting to solve real-world problems and kind of understanding how different cultures, different people might might approach or might benefit from some of the things that they're building, which makes that developer community so diverse and innovative.
Yeah, one of the things we heard yesterday, and I was talking to some folks last night also about, was how much they adopt technology. Like, they're just willing to try anything that makes their lives better and easier. And as we know, finances is a core area that we want to up-level. And the people here are very excited for what it can do for the Brazilian people. So it's very exciting to me to think about a market like this that feels like, could this be the next Dubai? Could it be the next, Taiwan or Hong Kong or Singapore, in terms of how people are really bringing the industry along with it?
Well, we took a look at some data yesterday. LATAM, one of the fastest growing regions when it comes to crypto adoption. And when we talk about crypto, the conversation really kind of narrows in on stablecoins. Sam, you mentioned the willingness to adopt, but I think that really speaks to how the financial system here has really failed a lot of people in a lot of ways, making people really willing to adopt solutions that work for them, whether they are a consumer, a business, whether they just need to do peer-to-peer transactions in their everyday lives.
I think that's spot on. We've also seen, and I know we'll talk a lot today about the sort of global impact of stablecoins and how many people are building in the space, are launching their own stablecoins, and are transacting just day to day. The volume, as we heard from Goldie yesterday, $200 billion a month. It's pretty staggering, and we know that's just the beginning. So it's going to be great. Also, I mean, crypto is flying right now, so it's a really interesting time to be having the conversation down here when the market in general is buoyed up.
BNB hit $1,000 this morning, I believe. You were just taking a look at the Bitcoin price. I think it was at around $117,000 this morning. The markets are looking a little bit better since the Fed cut rates in the United States yesterday by, I think, 1/4 of a basis point. I will say that I expected when this rate cut that we've been talking about for so long finally came, the markets might have been performing a little bit better. But I don't know. I still think they could be better.
They have a ways to go. I think that's true. But yes, I mean, Bitcoin's 117, ETH is 4,500, Solana is up 10%, Doge is up 15%. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in the space. I think that people are just excited. We know crypto is always cyclical. It's always a bit hype-driven, but also does respond to the sort of macro, and the macro seems more positive today than it was yesterday, and I think that's all that matters.
Well, we are in September, and all the analysts I've spoken to on Markets Outlook said, you can expect a rally. I think the Fed is expected to cut rates another 2 times this year, so maybe we can get that rally and end the year on a strong note. I think predictions for Bitcoin ending the year from some folks I've had on the show were at like $250,000. I can't remember what ETH was, but do you think we'll get there?
I'm a little bearish on the 250 number. I think if we did 150, everyone would be really happy.
Everyone would be super
so
happy.
Yeah, we'll do that. But I want to go back to something you said. I mean, BNB this morning hit 1,000. Right now it's like 996, 997. But you were mentioning some of that is on the rumors of potentially CZ returning, which I think, as one of the most popular faces in the crypto industry, what do you think that would mean to crypto and to Binance specifically if CZ comes back?
I mean, I think CZ has been such a figure in this industry. He really kind of led the charge when it came to that regulatory conversation that we had for so long. He, of course, did end up serving time, settling, and I think the biggest settlement the DOJ has ever had in its history.
I believe it was 4 months. $4 billion.
Yeah, that
So, yeah.
he really did it all. I think that would be incredible if CZ could come. I've never had a conversation personally with him, but he has done so much for the space. It does seem like he is on the better side of the regulators now, and so I think it would mean a lot. What do you think?
I think look, Vitalik, CZ, Michael Saylor, there are some people who really are the sort of pillars of the crypto industry. I think he's one of the top. We would love to speak with him, whether in Hong Kong or in Miami, so I think we're going to work on that. But I think there are people who are truly bullish on the industry, and those are the innovators, and they're the ones who are making it happen. I'm not sure, I guess when we talk about real world adoption, Binance as the largest exchange in the world is one of the folks who have done it correctly and brought a lot of people into the industry. I will say our next guest, they are working on bringing a lot of people in, 50 million already on their platform. So I'm excited to have our guest here, Anthony Suhu from MoneyGram, which we had a great conversation yesterday on the main stage we'll talk about, but let's get to it.
Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Sam just mentioned you guys spoke on stage yesterday. A big announcement when it comes to MoneyGram's partnership with Stellar, but also the innovation that MoneyGram has been kind of pioneering over the last few years. Tell us about the announcement.
Yeah, so we announced our next generation app for MoneyGram, which is built completely on stablecoin in partnership with Circle, CrossMint, and Circle. We're very excited about this because what I'll tell you, a little background, I joined the company about 10 months ago, and we're really refounding the company. And what that means is that as you're going through a refounding, you're taking the best parts of what made the DNA, but really rethinking what the company should look like 10, 15, next 100 years. And as an organization, one of the things that we did back is we knew that the future of finance is going to be in crypto, especially around stablecoin. And we wanted to make sure that we focused on the right problems. And I think we did with this first launch where we enabled our app is going to be launched in Colombia first, is our first test market. And then in addition, we're going to have a very fast follow rollout for many other countries in LATAM and other countries over 2026, so we can be more excited about this.
You talk about the refounding and the reimagining of the company, looking into the future. And I think about Blockbuster, right? And I think about how difficult those conversations might have been internally then when they were thinking about, where is the movie industry going in the next 10 to 15 years? Were those discussions hard to have within the walls of MoneyGram? Was there a resistance to change to this new digital age?
I would say one of the big benefits we have as a company is the company MoneyGram used to be public and it was taken private. And when you have that opportunity where you actually have a complete reset with one core investor base, there is much more of a longer term viewpoint, not this quarter, but how does this company look over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? And I don't think if you start with that as a foundation, there's any doubt that crypto, especially stablecoin, is going to play a very big role. And it can unlock a lot of things. And in my case, the reason I joined MoneyGram 10 months ago is because of what I believe MoneyGram as a platform can do in terms of democratizing access to finance for many people that are unbanked or underserved.
Anthony, when we were talking yesterday, one thing that really struck me, which was, crypto still is relatively complex. I said it on the pitch meeting, the pitches yesterday, and some of them I'm like, this is hard stuff for me to understand. I've been doing this for a long time. MoneyGram makes it really easy for people to get money. Money's so important to people, like it's emotional. They don't want it to be complex. So there's a trustworthiness you have. But you also mentioned the fact that I think you said there's like 500,000 doors that people can get money from. So around the world globally, you could be the largest off-ramp for crypto into real life cash. Tell us what that means and your aspiration, as you told me, was, we're just getting started at the 50 million we're at now.
Yeah, so it's a great point you bring up. So one of the benefits of refounding a company, I used to be an entrepreneur prior, and one of the best things about joining a company and refounding it versus founding a new company is you have assets to work with. MoneyGram's been around for decades. As an asset, it has one of the biggest assets the company has is over 500,000 retail locations around the world. We operate in over 200 countries and territories across 20,000 corridors. And so if you just start thinking about that and the 50 million customers that we serve, there's a lot of things that we can do. Now, I have been around, and I used to be a computer geek. I remember the old days. To get access to play around with the computer, you don't walk into an Apple store, place an order online, and pick it up. What you actually had to do was build a motherboard and actually build a case about it. And I think that's the early case of crypto. What we've seen is you have to remember all these lingos. And one of the things we wanted to do at MoneyGram was abstract it. In many respects, act like what Apple did for the PC to make it approachable. So that what we did is we're operating the whole thing back end, maybe on stablecoin, but the consumer doesn't have to know. All they have to know, and the problem we're trying to solve, is the fact that we want them to be protected against currency devaluation. We want them to access it in their time and when they need it. And then third is they can have the option of going into a retail location, talking to a human being to walking them through. We see that as full service. Or if they feel comfortable enough, they can access it on self-service. But the customer problem is I have a certain amount of pesos or currency I want to spend, and I want to make sure when I'm ready to spend it that I still have the purchasing power tomorrow that I have today. And that's the thing that we want to abstract. We'll take care of all of the treasury and all the complexity that happens in the back end, but hopefully for the consumer, what they see is, hey, I was protected in terms of this devaluation through MoneyGram, working with our partners like Stellar and Circle.
Why launch first in Colombia?
It is a huge receive market first. So it was a great area for us to kind of focus on because they receive like 40 times the amount of sends that they receive in the country versus what they send out. That's one. Number two, the country is actually pretty tech forward. As you know, there's a lot of AI talents building around that community out there. And we felt like we wanted to test in a market where we also had a lot of retail locations. We have thousands of retail locations there. So case source questions, they could walk in and talk to human beings. And then finally, when we got there, we felt like visiting various different countries, we really felt like it was a problem we wanted to solve because of they went through a lot, their currency has been devalued about 40%, I think, over the last year or two. So it felt like a great opportunity of all the customer problems that we want to solve in a market that was kind of ripe for it. And we wanted to kind of come in and lead versus follow.
And it sounds like, and we chatted about this a bit yesterday, but the opportunity for someone to hold in a stable coin, and then you just said it, their currency's been devalued 40%, and then always be able to take out when they need it at the highest rate probably gives a sense of comfort and security. And I know, one of the areas you guys are probably looking at is, savings and transaction spend and maybe even peer-to-peer. Like, is this really the evolution of MoneyGram into a full-service financial application?
What I would say is we have more ideas right now to operate than we know what to do with. Yeah. But that being said, there is a whole sequence to it. What we do know is that this might be, for us, the dawn of the mobile phone. And it's going to unlock a lot of different things. Who knows what's going to come of it? One of the things I'm most excited about, I think I shared yesterday, is the fact that we launched a developer-first API called Ramps. And the reason we did that is we know all the best ideas are not going to come from us. We need to leverage the developer community, including all the great people here in Brazil, because they're going to know their local markets well. They want to serve it. And what we want to do is give them access to our rails. And as part of it, we see us kind of being able to push the agenda forward versus being just our MoneyGram's agenda. It's going to be a collective agenda for all of us around the world. And I think that's part of the benefit and the spirit of DeFi in general anyway.
What kind of conversations have you been having so far at Stellar Meridian? I imagine you've been talking to the developers that are walking around. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I have been blown away with all the ideas of how people actually want to use our platform, anywhere from helping people do payroll to actually helping people pay rent back home. To actually sending back allowances on a weekly time. One of the most interesting ones is that I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities around trade finance where organizations are going to be able to run their business, but not seek just their local funding sources, but in many respects, this could open them up to credit where people might want to invest in their community or their causes or their projects worldwide, and that's going to be very exciting.
Anthony, thanks so much for joining us at the desk. We'll see you around the conference.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
That was Anthony Suhu, the CEO of MoneyGram. All right, let's take a look at some of the news headlines this morning. The Federal Reserve has cut its benchmark Fed funds rate range by 25 basis points to 4 to 4.25%. This is the central bank's first rate reduction since December 2024, which Fed Chair Jerome Powell referred to as a risk management cut. The overall crypto market has grinded higher following the announcement, with Bitcoin topping $117,900, like Sam just mentioned. That's the highest level since August 17th. Major tokens, including Ether, Solana, and Dogecoin, have all inched higher on the dovish Fed rate projections. All right, Rex Osprey is launching the first U.S.-listed spot ETFs for XRP and Doge today, September 18th. The products will debut on Cboe BZX exchange under the tickers XRPR and DOJE. XRP is on the rise following the announcement. Also contributing to the upside is bullish news coming out from the CME Group, which said it plans to introduce options on XRP and SOL futures on October 13th, subject to regulatory review. And moving on to the regulatory side of things, the SEC has approved a new set of rules that will make it easier for exchanges to list exchange-traded products. According to Chair Atkins, the move was aimed at reducing barriers to access digital asset products in a regulated manner. The easing in listing standards could potentially open the door for a wave of spot-based altcoin ETFs that have been waiting for regulators' nod to enter the market. Alongside the rule change, the SEC also approved the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund and options tied to the Cboe Bitcoin US ETF Index. Those are your top 3 stories for the morning. Follow all the latest news headlines on CoinDesk.com. All right, Sam, we are just getting warmed up for the morning. We are getting ready to welcome in our next guest. As we get ready for like the next hour and a half, what's that conversation you really want to have at the desk?
I am interested in, one, learning about Brazil, which we're about to do, and a little bit deeper about what's happening here in this market. We keep talking about the adoption rate in Brazil and LATAM. I want to know what they're doing, what are they adopting. So I'm really interested to talk to Aaron next. I'm also sort of interested in what people are investing in. I think that we're meeting with a lot of builders, a lot of folks who are developing great projects and building on Stellar as well as other chains. I'm just really thinking about who's going to be the next unicorn. You know, we spoke to Pantera yesterday, and I can't imagine that they're not here looking for their next big win. So, knowing that there's some investors looking around to say, who are these great builders, great entrepreneurs, and is it going to come not from North America, but from South America, from Asia, from, Middle East? I think there's just so much energy to look at.
You know what I think people don't talk about enough is some of the apps that make the news headlines every day that we talk about so often on our various different shows on CoinDesk came out of hackathons and were born at hackathons. And I feel like all these conferences happen all around the world, and we don't talk about the hackathons enough and the ideas that are really being incubated there. And so I hope later when we're done the show, we can find out maybe what happened at the hackathon, who won, what kind of problems the Brazilian developers here are trying to solve. But let's talk a little bit more about that with our next guest, the founder of the Brazil Crypto Report, Aaron Stanley. Hello.
Hey Jen, hey Sam, great to be here.
Nice to see you. You used to be one of our colleagues over at CoinDesk. Funny meeting you down here in Brazil.
Yeah. Well overdue, right? Yeah,
overdue.
But glad you guys finally came down to visit me. But I spent like 5 years at CoinDesk back, I think it was 2017 to 22-ish. So, it's really cool to see you guys still alive and kicking and going global.
We are alive and kicking. We are going global. You've been living in Brazil, I believe, for the last 3 years. You told me yesterday. Talk to us a little bit about crypto adoption in Brazil. As someone who's been living here, take us out onto the streets. Paint a picture for us. How are Brazilians looking at crypto?
Brazil's an interesting market because it's very much more of kind of like a top-down market, I think, where if you compare it to, say, like Argentina, everyone loves kind of the Brazil-Argentina comparison, where I think Argentina crypto adoption's been much more of like an organic sort of bottom-up type of movement out of necessity, right? Where in Brazil, it's really been, there definitely is some organic components to it, but it's really a lot more like a top-down kind of dynamic on the institutional side. So you have banks are like, there's at least like 6 or 7 banks right now that are offering like crypto trading to their like retail customers. Like I can open my Nubank app, which 100 million people in Brazil have, and I can buy 30 different cryptos just in this app. I can swap it out for USDC. I can earn 4% yield on that USDC. I can withdraw that to self-custody. Like very advanced stuff that you just don't find in, I can't do that with my Wells Fargo account in the US, at least not yet anyway. Brazil is also one of the first countries to approve crypto ETFs. And they approved the first crypto ETF, I think it was April in 21. And I think there's at least 15 different crypto ETFs trading here. There's the first Solana ETF was here, the first XRP ETF was launched here. There's several of these basket kind of mixed basket ETFs like Hashdex and QR Asset and some of these other guys are running, where it's kind of a mix of Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, et cetera, et cetera. And these are among the largest trading ETFs on the entire stock exchange here, right? I think the Hash 11, shout out to Hashdex who runs this. Last time I checked, it was actually the second largest ETF by like volume and shareholders. So you have this interesting dynamic where it's very much kind of a top-down, a lot of the adoption is coming from kind of the top-down rather than just the organic bottom-up angle. And you also have, there's also a lot of interesting stablecoin stuff happening as well, which we can talk about. That's kind of emerged in the last like 6 to 9 months. But historically speaking, it's been very kind of like this institutionally driven sort of top-down push to offer these types of products in the market here.
Aaron, I'm interested in what you're saying. You run the Brazil Crypto Report, which I believe is the only English language report of its kind that's covering the market. My guess is a lot of those people who are reading are outsiders looking to see what should we be doing in the market. And then you also mentioned that you have a lot of local people who are reading to just find out, how should they be approaching this industry. So what do you think is sort of the mix of interest in Brazil? Is it about the bottom up, we want to transact, we want to get paid, we want to invest? Or is it others saying, hey, it's such a big market, how do we kind of look at this as an opportunity to build a brand?
There's a couple different angles here. I think there's kind of this phrase that you'll hear the VCs here kind of say, which is that like Brazil's kind of like the beta market for the world, right? Like Brazilians just historically are very early adopters of technology. Like I remember the first time I came here in 2010, the guy that was driving me around, he had like 3 different phones, and he's got like, he's WhatsApping people, and he's got all sorts of, and I didn't even have a smartphone at this point. This dude's got like 3 of them on his dashboard, And it's like, okay, that's not something you see in the US very frequently, right? And this is with regards to whether it's consumer technology, financial technology, digital bank products like Nubank. Been around for 10 years. They've got 100 million clients now. Brazilians are just generally early adopters of new technologies, right? So that's an ideal market to launch products in, right? Because people are generally pretty savvy with this type of thing. I think from the outsider perspective, Brazil is also very interesting on the cross-border kind of payment side. Like, while Brazil has a very developed internal financial system, probably among the best in the world. We can talk about Pix, like the instant payment network that now has been around for 5 years, has like 95% penetration. I mean, you can pay for anything with Pix. It's incredible. But like in the context of kind of the global financial system, it's still kind of on the periphery of the correspondent banking system. So there's a lot of gains to be had in kind of this cross-border payment with stablecoins arena by streamlining some of these operations. There's a lot of like just low-hanging fruit, kind of fat to trim off the bone essentially in terms of efficiency gains there. So you've actually been seeing a lot of the top teams building locally within the last year or two. A lot of these guys that have pivoted into doing cross-border stablecoin payment infrastructure. So the guys that were doing, I'll give these guys a shout out because they're a sponsor of mine, but Avenia, they started off doing like a quantitative hedge fund, crypto hedge fund, and within 6 months they pivoted to doing cross-border stablecoin payment infrastructure, and now they've done a couple of raises. Like they've got, it's an interesting story. And there's a couple of other platforms that have done very similar maneuvers where they've pivoted into doing. They've just found that that's where the product market fit is. Companies like Lumix, companies like Trace Finance. There's a lot of outside companies as well coming in that are basically offering the same service. So like things like Conduit, Things like OpenFX is another one that I've heard about recently. So there's a number of these guys that are trying to enter into this market because you do have a lot of volume here, payment volumes. It's a huge economy. So I think some of the kind of the chicken egg problem with some of this stablecoin cross-border stuff is like, a lot of these like smaller isolated markets. It's like, well, it may make sense in theory why you should offer this service in that market. The business case may not be there in the immediate term because it's just not big enough to justify the expense of setting up all the infrastructure and whatnot. But Brazil is a massive market. It's 200 million people, one of the top 10 largest economies in the world by GDP. So it does make sense, right? Brazil has its own kind of unique challenges as far as just like, on the, the regulatory side and like the cost of doing business. And it's just very culturally different from the rest of Latin America in a lot of ways. But I think the market isn't big enough where people are like, hey, this is something we got to be paying attention to.
Aaron, we've talked a lot about blockchain infrastructure to kind of solve some of the issues people are facing when it comes to financial systems here. We've talked a lot about stablecoins. Something you said that was interesting to me was, there are some banking apps you can log into and purchase several different types of cryptocurrencies. When you talk to people out on the streets, like, are they doing that? Is it something that's available to them? Are they interested in buying a little bit of Bitcoin, buying a little bit of Sol, and using that as an investment? Or are they really using stablecoins for some of the use cases that you've seen as their primary way of interacting with crypto?
Stablecoins is really, my experience in Brazil so far is that stablecoins is really more of a B2B phenomenon than it is a consumer phenomenon. Primarily due to the reason that you already have PIX as a payment. It's already free to send money. It's free and instantaneous to use PIX to send money. So I don't need to, that solves the payment problem basically. It's, even though there's some kind of clunky things with the user experience, that kind of solves the payment problem, right? There are some instances of people kind of dollarizing into stable coins, via like a new bank platform. You're seeing some of that. I wouldn't say it's like quite widespread at this stage. I think people are a little more looking for perhaps like we'll call it like asymmetric returns. Brazilians kind of love these meme coins, and so if you go to CoinGecko and you can actually look at what are like the most trending tokens in a given jurisdiction. I haven't looked recently, but for a long time, like Baby Dogecoin was always on the top of the list. So there's all these a lot of these kind of random meme coins and gaming coins that I haven't, you've never heard of before.
So they're interested in playing around.
Yeah, it's definitely more of people are looking at crypto here much more as like an investment opportunity or a trading opportunity than in a practical kind of payments. Day-to-day payments opportunity, right?
So they are interested in investing in cryptos, like some of the meme coins you mentioned, or Bitcoin, Ether.
Yeah, and an interesting statistic that I don't know if this is like officially public, but it's like my friends who work at MetaMask telling me that Brazil actually, this was maybe 2 years ago, so maybe it's changed, but I'll give him a shout out, Daniel Lynch, who's kind of like their like Latin America MetaMask institutional guy. But he was telling me that Brazil has the second largest volume of MetaMask downloads globally after the US. And in my read on that is like somebody who's downloading MetaMask is usually going to be a more sophisticated user than somebody who's just opening up like a Coinbase account or something, right? So like this person's probably engaging in DeFi, they're probably doing some stuff with NFTs, they're probably, contributing to a liquidity pool or something like that. So that indicates like there's a more sophisticated user who is probably engaging in things that your average retail person is not going to be engaging in.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining us at the desk and laying that foundation on what's going on here in Brazil. We'll see you around.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was Brazil Crypto Report founder, Aaron Stanley. We are gonna keep it moving. If you are just joining us, we are at Stellar Meridian 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We are bringing you the best of what's happening here and talking about what's going on in LATAM as it comes to crypto adoption. Shall we get to our next guest, Sam?
I would love to.
All right. Our next guest represents one of the most recognized brands in global commerce, a company that is now actively building the bridges between traditional finance and digital assets, director of crypto at Visa. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Fine. Nice to meet you guys. Nice to be here.
Nice to see you too. Talk to us a little bit about what you've been up to at the conference so far.
Well, first of all, I am very happy because I am my hometown. I'm a Carioca girl, so be here talking a little about crypto for me, it's amazing. And the event, it's beautiful. I think that there are a lot of very interesting people, and I have been doing several meetings and a lot of builders and POC is very nice.
I'm interested. So, a while ago, I was talking to, at the time, who's no longer at Visa, Vanessa Colella, who is the head of innovation. And she really kept talking about the fact that Visa touches so many small businesses, so many people on the ground, but also understood the payments rails of B2B. And so when you think and you look around here, and when you think of a market like Brazil, how much of this is about people being able to hold and transact in crypto, or how much of it really for you guys is about how do we just like in essence get the rails going so that people can get paid quicker, and really supercharge the small and medium-sized businesses?
Well, I think that's what Visa is doing is helping to make the use of crypto improve the user experience, right?
Yeah.
We know that the user experience in crypto was not very, very good. So what we are doing now is helping the merchants, helping the users, not just because when we are talking about the stablecoins, the retail use is still few.
Yeah.
And we are developing solutions like stablecoin linked cards that is helping that not just the great companies can use stablecoins to send money cross borders, but we can use that on our daily routines, right? So the Visa is working to be that bridge from the traditional markets and the crypto environments and helping to deliver a better user experience for crypto users and for traditional users so that want to start experiencing the crypto environment.
Tell us a little bit about that better experience. What does that look like for traditional users of Visa? And how do you think about bringing those crypto users in?
Okay, so first of all, it's important to say that we already are working with crypto for so many years. Visa already processed around $95 billion in purchase of crypto. So we are already working with that. We worked with Crypto.com and several other players. And what we are doing now is enabling these stablecoin linked cards. That's a solution that connects a Visa card to a crypto wallet. So where you can enable your wallets can enable the power of the payments using this card. So now you can buy on a grocery store or booking your flights using your Visa cards, but that is getting funds from your wallet. And for the user, is a seamless process, it's transparently, but for on the behind the scene, the issuer is converting the crypto into fiat on the point of sale. So we are helping to bring that solutions to several other clients, and we are partnering with enablers like Rain, Bridge, and banks that are issuing those solutions globally. Because we saw that this is an opportunity for us to have more people using stablecoin on their daily and use. At the end of the day, Visa, we are trying to be the best. We are always focusing on be the best way to pay and be paid. And we see that stablecoin is one new option for our customers, and we are enabling that.
Antonia, what sold you on crypto? Why are you so
Great
passionate
question.
about bringing this to Visa?
Well, I am in crypto for the last 5 to 6 years. I started in a startup doing crypto, and my love is on blockchain. So I know that what we are seeing right now, I think that's not just me, but we as Visa teams, we were waiting for this for so many years, that moment that we are seeing in the market right now, right? So for me, is that now we are seeing the power that the blockchain can bring to not just for the user, but for the environment as a whole, and help the banks to have better products, help to be more decentralized, more accessible. So for me, I'm in love with blockchain for so many years, and for me, it's amazing to be at Visa, opening so many doors to start to work with crypto.
You know, Antonia, it's funny because I remember being on Coinbase in 2015, 2016, and you would try to fund it and you would try to use any of your credit cards and nothing would ever work.
Blocked.
Right? And I understand that it was such an early technology, there was still a lot of vetting that had to be done. I think it's amazing to think 10 years later that whether it's you or some of your competitors, we won't name them, are so much trying to look at this as the future of finance. I know you're not looking at it saying crypto is going to replace all of traditional money and cash. That's not going to happen. But how these ecosystems can rise together, I think, is so fascinating. And the fact is, you know, I mean, you probably know the stats, but I imagine hundreds of millions, if not billions of people have a card with a Visa logo in their pocket right now. And I just think of the staggering opportunity to bring that many people onto blockchain, whether they know it or not, is one that you can do more than almost anybody. Is there a lot of enthusiasm within the group right now?
Yes. Well, first of all, I am used to say that we win this game when we stop to talk about crypto and you're using that like you use the Google Photos, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to explain what the Google Photos do. So for me, this is our main goal. So how can we deliver solutions in crypto, in stable coins, that is not, the user experience is so seamless that nobody needs to understand. And I think that is something that we are doing at Visa. We are connecting that traditional, and I understand that in the past, we develop a lot of things to be at that right moment right now, and we are connecting the traditional, we are helping the traditional market to understand. We are using that experience that we have, that relationship that we have with the regulators, with the central banks, with the banks, to help them to understand how they can start to use stablecoins, how they can start their strategy. We have been doing a lot of consulting projects, helping them to deliver their strategy and help them to understand how they can start with a product that's just a stablecoin linked card, or with a stablecoin settlement, or using the Visa Direct solution, using a stablecoin, or even using examples like we are doing with BBVA that is issuing their own, they are using our solution, that's the VTAP, the Visa Tokenized Asset Platform, to manage their stablecoin backed solution and to issue their own stablecoin in the near future. So this is what we are doing, and we understand that our role here is to help the traditional and the crypto environment and at the end of the day, to deliver a better experience for our consumers on our worldwide.
Antonia, thank you so much for joining us at the desk.
Thank you.
All right, that was Director of Crypto at Visa, Antonia de Souza Silva. We are going to take a quick break. We will be right back.
You send money to your mom back home, right? And it's not always straightforward, is it?
It's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Now try sending money to millions of people during a crisis. It is a logistical nightmare.
So tell me, is there any waking up from this nightmare?
We have access to a tool called Stellar Aid Assist.
Stellar
Aid Assist.
Right, Aid Assist.
The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field. But where there's a problem, there's a solution. Access to the digital economy is still out of reach for many. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world.
Welcome back to CoinDesk Live. We are coming to you from Stellar Meridian 2025 in beautiful Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm Jen Sanasi, here with my co-host Sam Ewan. We've been having some incredible conversations here at the desk, and this one is going to be, I think, just as incredible. Our next guest is the CEO of AirTM, a digital wallet offering an integrated U.S. virtual account for non-U.S. citizens. Please welcome Ruben Galindo to the desk. He's the CEO of AirTM. Hello.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, we got to start here. 6 products launched in the last 9 months. You've been a very busy guy.
Our team has been very, very busy, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about those products. And you don't need to go through all 6, but what's that greater vision that they are falling under?
Surely. So AirTM really cares about people who work online. Mm-hmm. And we aim to do anything and everything to help them get better connected to the online economy. And that's mainly the US market and the Euro market. And so this year we've launched not just a Euro sort of account to complement our ACH account or an American account to allow anyone that's making any money online to receive a payment seamlessly as if they were in the US or in Europe. So weird to hear yourself speaking on this thing.
I know, but you're doing great.
Anyway, to complement that offering, because these banking systems are huge and people everywhere are earning money in these banking systems, and yet they're collecting payments via PayPal. And so it's very slow for them. And so in that effort, we've launched these products. We've also launched products to help people spend their money seamlessly when they receive money locally. Because that's the other hard part about receiving a stablecoin payment. It's like, how do I use it? You can't pay rent in stablecoins. You can't pay to the
Not yet.
things in the pharmacy.
Not yet, Ruben.
No, but we have to make it compatible. Yeah. And so with AirTM, you already can. You can receive a payment from the US and then using your Pix account, go anywhere in Brazil and pay with Pix, for instance. So we launched Pix and QR payments in Argentina, which is a big QR economy. And then we also launched a virtual card, which allows you to not just receive money, but then to spend it anywhere globally. And so I guess that's what sort of encompasses the products that we have launched, which is how could we give the best end-to-end experience for people who work online from the moment they receive a payment in America or Europe to the point that they're actually using that money to cash out locally in the local and the relevant payment methods locally to do that.
Ruben, I remember, I think it was 2 years ago in Madrid, we were talking to the AirTM team, and it really felt like it was this human-powered ATM network.
Yeah.
And it really feels like you've evolved tremendously to being a true payments rail. And the fact that you're involved with Pix, we were just talking to Aaron from the Brazil Crypto Report who mentioned 95% penetration for Pix. So the idea that you can spend pretty quickly by getting paid from a foreign market seems like a tremendous unlock. So how much is that working it's working in Brazil, how much is that working around the world, that concept of really becoming just a global payments network?
As far as AirTM goes?
Yes.
Well, that's a very big question. I think it's as big as a problem. I don't think there will be another PayPal. I don't think there is going to be another juggernaut. They own every single payment flow in every corner of the world. I think we're going to see some fragmentation of the cross-border payment market. And AirTM cares mainly about the people who work online. And we care deeply about every single challenge that they have when they receive a payment, because they work very hard for the money, just as you all do. Just as we do at AirTM, and we have a seamless experience using that money, right? We don't see a reason why people that work online anywhere in Latin America, South Asia, the Middle East, Africa should have to go through a hard time when they get paid for that value that they generate online to use that money. And so when we look at the world of payments, we look at it from that perspective, and that's our little corner of it. It's still trillions of dollars, still pretty big, but that's the part that we care about. And that means that our biggest markets are in this side of the world, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico. Even though we don't neglect any other market, we have very wide coverage. Our virtual account products are available in every single Latin American country. Then we have a big focus in India, Pakistan, Philippines, Bangladesh, Nigeria, because they are the big online economies where most people that work online live there. And so it's important for AirTM to have a very solid offering in these countries.
We've talked to a few different companies at this desk who are solving a similar problem for different groups of people who maybe work online or get paid across borders. Talk to me about how AirTM differentiates themselves when there are so many people looking to solve this problem for different communities, different regions, and different groups of people who do different types of work.
Sure. So I think what makes AirTM a little bit different is that we've been around for 10 years, and I'm not saying that to age AirTM or anything, but because we had to build infrastructure from the ground up. Think about having this conversation 10 years ago. We were the first to solve the question, how do you cash virtual money out? It wasn't even stable coins. And we solved that issue a long time ago. So right now, today, there's a study coming out later today, announced in Washington, on 41 million AirTM transactions in the last few years, where we prove just how advanced the rails are, where in terms of speed, we're able to cash out payments within minutes in most countries, which is a total novelty. A traditional cross-border payment today takes sometimes days to arrive if you're talking about an electronic payment. Our fees are also sub 6%. 50% of our transfers are sub 3%, which is a huge novelty. That's basically the cost of an electronic payment service today, or the cost of an electronic payment, period. Lastly, we also cater to micro remittances because our rails are so good. Our ability to deliver money to the last mile is so good, where we can make a $2 payout. In fact, 16% of AirTM payments today are sub $10, which sort of outlines the fact that our rails are very good and capable of including everyone in this economy. Now, the fact that we're sort of centered on this online work economy means that we care deeply about it, and that we go above and beyond providing just our broad offering, which is what you're describing. 2 years ago, it was mainly it was AirTM's cashier network, which allowed AirTM to offer its services. But now we're enhancing that and bolstering it with more coverage for people who work online. So I think that that's what sets AirTM apart. We have payment rails that no one has.
And Ruben, walking around a conference like this, you can't help but bump into someone every 4 minutes who's creating a digital wallet.
Yeah.
But what it feels like you're saying and is that you've invested a lot of time into getting to know your customers so well and being a real resource for them, being a kind of trusted financial friend. Do you think that sort of the customer service layer, the understanding your customer is the way to win in the digital wallet market?
Understanding your customers will surely be an advantage for any single company in every single industry, and we surely have to stand out because of that. However, there's real infrastructural challenges and barriers keeping the economy that we are trying to build for away from the economy that it belongs to, meaning the online work economy. And people that belong to that online world economy are not connected to it. And they're not connected to it in a way that allows them to leverage or to use the money that they earn online. So what makes AirTM different is its infrastructure. We just can connect a USDC to 600 payment methods locally, and you could do a cash out in 6 minutes or less at 3%, which no one does. And so I think, answering your question, it'll be an infrastructural difference, what makes any one of us stand out. On top of that, yes, customer service will be important, but I think it's more than just owning payments as the main challenge, where, for instance, in AirTM's case, we see every single issue that an online worker has when they're working online, even when they don't find work online, as an AirTM issue. We should be able to help you out if you find yourself without a job, because you have a liquidity crunch. So we should be able to help you fix that. And so it's more, I think, taking ownership over the whole problem set, not just of the payments piece of it. And in that way, I think we're going to see a lot of specialization. You're going to see AirTM owning the online economy as a whole problem set. You're going to see remittance providers owning the whole problem set of remittances. And you're going to have X number or N number of payment service providers very much focused on their unique economies and the full problem set.
Ruben, thanks so much for joining us at the desk. It was a pleasure hearing from you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
That was AirTM CEO Ruben Galindo. All right, Sam, we are getting into the groove of things, heading into the second hour of our broadcast soon.
Time
Not
is
quite
flying.
yet. Time is flying. Time flies when you're having fun. I think that was a valid question that you asked there. You know, we have spoken to a lot of folks who are building digital wallets to solve multiple different issues, but it does feel like eventually, to me at least, there may be a consolidation of these wallet products as they become more mature.
I think we've already been seeing that. We've seen MoonPay acquire some companies. We've seen Stripe acquire some companies. I think people are starting to say, hey, if I can grab a wallet and it already has 50,000 users, 100,000 users, that may be something worth rolling up. And so I think that's spot on that we're going to see that happen, which I don't think is a bad thing.
I don't think so
I think when the way Ruben was talking about it, they're trying to solve a specific problem, but the specific problem is one for a very wide audience globally. And it's, again, part of what we've always been talking about with crypto. I want the best talent. That talent may be in a small town in Nicaragua, and they don't get payments the way that we can with PayPal and Zelle. So I think that's, the market's big enough for something like that. So I think there's so many folks that are doing the work here. We've been talking a lot about online payments, stable coins. We've not touched enough on real world assets and tokenization. And I have a feeling that our next guest is going to be able to tell us a lot.
All right, our next guest is focused on bringing commercial real estate onto the blockchain. As the founder and CEO of Red Swan, he is making high-end, institutional-grade properties accessible to a wider range of investors through tokenization, all powered by a partnership with the Stellar Network. Welcome, Edward Nokeli. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is excellent. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. We've been waiting, I think, for 2 days to talk about real-world assets. We haven't had a chance to talk about it at the desk yet. And so often when we talk about real-world assets, we're talking about equities and financial products. And we haven't really had the chance to unpack real estate. So I'm really excited that you're here. Talk to me a little bit about that. Why are you looking at tokenizing large-scale real estate? And what are the types of investors that are interested in this product?
Well, thanks for that question. I've been in real estate for 20 years. I worked at Cushman & Wakefield as an executive director, so I have firsthand on seeing the impact on real estate and who the normal investors are. But it was always the major institutions, the large check writers that own these properties, just like this hotel we're in today. And I thought it was kind of unfair to the market. I think everyone should be able to invest in real estate and build wealth. And so by fractionalizing real estate equity or debt, you're now allowing people to participate in ownership of really high quality real estate that typically is just unheard of in the past.
Edward, I think about some of the conversations I've had at these crypto events around the last couple of years, and I will always mention tokenized real estate, and someone says, well, I don't want someone to hack and steal the NFT of my home and suddenly I don't own it anymore. You're talking about a very different and much more sophisticated way of looking at real estate, especially commercial real estate. So if I'm an investor, how do I get involved?
So if you're an investor, if you're United States, you have to be accredited and you can buy pieces of real estate. So we'll usually have price points starting at like $10,000, $25,000 and all the way up. And for those types of projects, you basically get what we call KYC, so we know that you're not on any bad boy list. And then once you do that, now you can bring your capital in. We'll accept USDC now with the Genius Act. We can accept USDC crypto, but it allows you to buy a portfolio of real estate or even just one particular asset and build your own portfolio if that's what you like to do.
Wait, so you're saying I could come to you guys and say, I'm really interested in the Phoenix market, and I want to give $50,000, and you'll help me figure out the way to invest in a single property or in a basket of Phoenix.
Yeah, on our marketplace at redswan.io, we have a lot of properties, over 50 properties that you can choose from in different parts of the United States. We have some properties now in the Middle East, and we have some properties in Africa. So you can pick the jurisdiction of your choice, and then also the asset class of your choice, whether it be a hotel or apartment building or a data center. And then you can, once you go through that, you can figure out which one you want to purchase and then how much you want to purchase.
Talk to me a little bit about transparency. That's so important in this industry, right?
Absolutely.
If I go on to redswan.io and I decide I want to be a part of an investment in a property over in the Middle East, how do I know that I am actually an investor in that property? What kind of information is available to me?
Well, first of all, we do a lot of due diligence before we onboard a property. Not only do we have a team of analysts who go through the project, we also bring professionals like Deloitte or Cushman & Wakefield to actually look at the property. They give their opinion of value, which is something that with the stamp of their approval, they'll let you know that someone other than just Red Swan has reviewed this property and feels it is a good investment. So that's the first point. And then secondly, we make sure that all the sponsors go through a due diligence themselves. We have to make sure that they give us a lot of information. We check to make sure they're not on any kind of terrorist list or have any future previous problems. And so once that's clear, then they can come on our platform and allow people to take a look at their projects And it's really a desktop analysis where you can actually look through the asset, look at the financial statements yourself. If you need help, we're happy to give you some guidance. But really, it's self-service. For some large investors, we kind of hold their hands. But then once you get these shares, you can put it in your wallet. And what you said about cryptocurrency, people hacking in and stealing it, that's not true with securities. Securities are registered on an exchange so that all the securities you buy for real estate are on the blockchain and be in your name. So if you lost your password to your wallet, we can burn those securities and reissue. So a clawback and then reissue for you. So you never have to worry about somebody stealing or hacking into your wallet and taking away the prized assets you bought.
Edward, we're here at Meridian. I'm interested in how you're working with Stellar. I know them a lot as a payments and remittance platform. I love to see that they're, like other chains, looking at these other opportunities. So what made you choose Stellar? Why are you working together? How are you working together?
Stellar's great. I mean, we've been working with them for 3 years now. We actually augmented through a grant from them to build tokenization onto the Stellar platform so that now their ecosystem can actually see what we're doing and kind of buy through their ecosystem. So Stellar has many stable coins that they sponsor. They can use those stable coins to buy our tokens. But we see them as a distribution channel because they have millions of users who actually are with the Stellar coin. Once they see options of what they can do with their coin, people want to have yield. They just don't want to have something that stays flat or bounces up and down every day. They want something that's going to grow in value, but also pay them a yield on a regular basis. And I think the shares we're offering can do that. But we use Stellar as a way to advertise these projects, let them know that they can actually use their currency to buy a digital asset that's a piece of real estate. We're also combining it with NFTs for some of the hotels, so they can actually not only get yield, but also have lifestyle. I mean, what I mean by that is you have some hotels we have that are beachfront properties. We're looking at something here in Copacabana, but it'll allow people to now buy a piece of real estate that's going to pay them a certain yield of interest on a regular basis. Real estate tends to always go up in value in a good location, but then also having that usability of it to visit that property and have reservation rights, free night stays, we think is also important.
So there's a loyalty play as well.
Yeah, we make an NFT out of that, so that the NFT now becomes something they can have loyalty with. They can actually sell the NFT on OpenSea. We don't sell NFTs because we're licensed, but they can do that on their own if they want to.
One of the big themes here at the conference has been financial inclusion, especially given where we're sitting here today. And it sounds like one of the missions for Red Swan is to really democratize access to real estate, to give a new group of investors access to something that maybe they felt like they were locked out of before. Talk to me about the types of investors you're seeing. I imagine there are some first-time investors who are starting to play around who maybe feel like they would have never had the chance to have a piece of real estate otherwise.
Absolutely. You have institutional investors, of course, that buy large amounts of real estate, but you have next-gen investors who own a lot of crypto, would like to diversify into another asset class. And so we see them coming to buy. I mean, they're having, young people today can't even afford to buy a house. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times people put a lot of their capital into a home and they don't have any discretionary money to buy anything else. And so this way it's almost reverse. If you can use your discretionary money and dollar cost average into several pieces of real estate, you'll now have enough cash flow that you can buy a much bigger house. And you'll also be diversifying and growing your net worth.
Edward, thanks so much for joining us at the desk. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure here as well. Thank you.
That was Edward Nwokedi, the founder and CEO of Red Swan. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back.
Sending money around the world is still too hard for too many. But if ideas are borderless, opportunity should be too. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world. The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field.
Puedo mandarle dinero a mi familia, pero quién sabe cuánto llegará.
Як ми відновимося? Як захистимо їхнє майбутнє?
كلما ادخرت ازداد شعوري بعدم الأمان.
That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world.
Welcome back to CoinDesk Live. If you're just joining us, we are coming to you from Stellar Meridian 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Our next guest is tokenizing government bonds as the CEO of Etherfuse. He's making these traditionally complex assets accessible on the blockchain, and he's launching a brand new product right here in Brazil. Please welcome Dave Taylor. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, in our last segment, we were talking about tokenized real estate. Now we're talking about tokenized government bonds. Just lay a foundation for us here. Talk to us about how it works.
Tokenized government bonds, like the point of it is to lift the interface or risk-free rate to everybody. So how it works is you can purchase one of our assets, and with those funds, we go and buy the corresponding collateral, which is short-term treasuries in that country. So we have a lot of people are focused on US treasuries today. We have those as well, but we also have Brazilian, Mexican, British, European, and we have about 20 more coming in the next few months. So we hold those assets, and at the rate that value compounds, we have our protocol match that rate. So when you hold our assets, they operate like an interest-bearing stablecoin, where they're increasing in value at the same rate as the collateral, but you're just holding it. It's sitting in your wallet.
And Dave, the reason that someone would buy through Etherfuse versus going on the open market, is that because we may not have access as a normal investor to what's happening here in Brazil?
Yeah, so there's two perspectives. There's foreign and local. So if you're a foreigner, like trying to buy, let's say, Mexican debt, it's really hard for you. You could do it through an ETF in the US, but you're going to lose about 3% of that yield just by going that route. Through us, you get full yield, 99.5%, besides our small management fee, which is comparable to a brokerage, but in a self-custody wallet. Very simple, very straightforward, freely available on most DeFi protocols. If you're local too, sometimes, in Mexico, as an example, about 40% of the population is unbanked in general. So not only do they not have access to the safest investment in the area, they don't have banking access. Well, with us, you just need a phone, and you can buy those assets. And they act as primitives for a lot of things like savings accounts, exchange. They on and off ramp for free locally into the banking system. So access is the number one key.
For a population that previously didn't have access, how do you enter a market like that and introduce a platform that maybe they've never used before, they've never seen this before? Talk to me about that process.
It was very, very hard and a lot of luck. We did start 4 years ago. Really, we went to Mexico. We issue most of our assets out of Mexico, and then we register them in Switzerland. We went there just because we felt the incentives were there. So as a US person, it was pretty anti-crypto at the time. And so we went to Mexico looking for like a warmer welcome, which we did end up finding. Mexico has a lot of characteristics of unbanked and high cost of loans and access that when we made this petition to the SEC of Mexico called the CNBV, we did have a positive outcome. So you need, I would say, a lot of luck, high risk tolerance, and I think just a dream, to be honest. Yeah.
Do you see what your product is really a balance to some of the kind of like meme coin frenzy and the sort of volatility in some of the traditional crypto assets? Is it the idea that in the near future, people will be looking at their crypto portfolios as they would a savings portfolio or a retirement one, and you need to have that balance of risk?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of historical precedents for the early stages of technologies being kind of full of fraud or speculative, and that seems to, like a sine wave, seems to even out into a competitive product. So I think we're about in the middle somewhere. So people are really starting to pay attention to stablecoins right now. Yes, if you want to be speculative, generally you need to have a homestead where you can return those assets to something so you're not always stressed out. Yield-bearing treasuries is like the best thing you could do. Put your cash there. So you can balance in and out. It's a good counterparty to highly speculative assets. But more importantly, if you look back in history, just bonds were fundamental to the growth of nations and I would say financial infrastructure. And we really are missing that. We see a lot on the US side, but not the rest of the world. Etherfuse aims to provide that for the rest of the world.
Why are you so passionate about providing that for the rest of the world as someone who's coming from the US?
I think as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for opportunity. And for some reason, I don't think anyone is really focused in this area. But if you look at the market, it's huge. And the not only just like monetarily, the market of value and comfort and improvement to people's lives that you can bring. So it really drives us to do something that people aren't really convicted about, but we know is a good idea. So it feels like a mission statement for us, something we know we can do, and we have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, access has been a real theme for us at the desk here over the last 2 days, and it sounds like you're really passionate about bringing that access to folks around the world. If we think about the product advancing, is this something that as folks become more comfortable holding them, more familiar with the product, they could use in DeFi applications to collateralize or participate in the crypto ecosystem even more?
Absolutely. I mean, like one of the winning use cases is moving FX on chain. So right now, stablecoins have solved the big problem of sending the value across borders for very cheaply. But if I want to FX into my local currency, I still rely on traditional banking rails, which is inefficient compared to how stablecoins could work. Now, our assets, you can buy our US Treasury with the dollar, and you can buy our Mexican Treasury with the Mexican peso. Given enough depth in a protocol, a trade swapping of those values is extremely cheap, under 3 bips many times, which is hard to get, I would say, in traditional FX rails. So it's cheaper, faster, more efficient, and you have, while you're holding those assets, you're earning yield. So there's a lot of opportunity here.
All right, Dave, imagine we're sitting here 2 or 3 years from now. What does success look like for you?
For us, we want to have the underlying infrastructure, programmatic and direct access to the risk-free rate of all currencies in the whole world available to anybody. So that's a big mission statement, but I really think that we can do it.
We'll see you here in 2 to 3 years from now. We'll play that clip, and
Exactly.
and I believe that you can get there.
All right, thank you very much.
Dave,
Thanks for having me.
thanks so much.
Bye.
That was Dave Taylor, the CEO of Etherfuse. All right, we're just trucking along, Sam. I'm really happy we got to have the conversation about real-world assets along with stablecoins, which is, I guess, a type of real-world asset. It has really been a major narrative this year, right? It's been regulation, real-world assets, and stablecoins. And if I think just to like 1 or 2 years ago, how different and how mature that narrative has changed.
I think we are having conversations now that we wished we would have had in 21 and 22. We started to see these in 23. So I think there's a groundswell. And I think that what I'm hearing most is the comfort layer of big institutions like we saw with Visa, of entrepreneurs like Dave or Edward that we just talked to, but also of the user base of people who are willing to say, I want to put my money to work and I want to figure out ways that I can feel comfortable with it. I remember how hard it was in the late 90s, early 2000s for you to like tell your parents to put their credit card into a website.
Oh my gosh, it's still hard. My dad will not do it.
Right, and I think crypto had a lot of that. I think people thought, what do you mean I'm sending or I'm buying this token? What happens when it rugs me? What happens when I lose the keys or the money disappears? I think we're getting over that barrier, and that's sort of what I'm hearing when I talk to people around this conference, when we talk to the people we've had at the desk. I think it's been a wonderful sort of evolution of our industry.
I have to say, I really hope that on Edward's platform, we can get an NFT of this hotel, and then we can come back, enjoy the beach when we're not working.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would love that too. Maybe we can talk to Edward about that a little bit later. Let's get to our next conversation. The co-founder of Regdor, a platform that helps firms stay ahead of regulation, Nicole Dyscant, is joining us now. Hello.
Hello, Jen. Hello, Sam.
Pleasure.
So happy to be here. Huge fan of the show, especially in Rio, my beloved town. And a stellar event. So that's so great. Thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here. Let's start by laying a foundation. Talk to us about Regdor, what it is, and the regulatory and compliance challenge that it's solving for so many crypto firms.
Of course. So I've been in compliance and regulatory and financial regulations for over 25 years. And now with AI, we're just in front of a transformational opportunity here, right? So for legal, regulatory, and compliance, there's so many manual and operational procedures that can be substituted by the AI, and people can only focus on what is strategic and what requires human capacity. So that's what Regdor is about. We actually, of course, I can tell you about like the product, but it's much more than the product. It's a mission, and especially coming from this regulatory side, we want to increase cooperation and collaboration between the public sector and the private sector with the help of the association. So that's the goal, and the product will. I mean, there's a lot which is ready, but I'm sure so early stage will have so many tweaks as client will respond to that the more important to stick with is the mission.
Nicole, I'm interested in, we've heard a lot, people talk about the forward technological position that people in Brazil have. They're very willing to try and transact and use technology to bring themselves into the future. On the regulatory side, are you feeling a similar appetite from the government?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we have, and that's why I think the inspiration comes like from global firms as I'm advisor as Fireblocks, TaxBit, but definitely from my relationship with the regulators and the government in Brazil. They are very open to the private tech to experiment, and that's why like we have pilots, sandboxes, and public consultations that are very, there is an intensive dialogue. So, and Brazil is a market per se, it's a huge market, it's huge on crypto adoption. And more importantly for my firm is that financial institutions, like the big ones, I would say all of them are trying something with crypto tokenization, blockchain infrastructure. So it's a nice market for us to start with. But EU is definitely my go-to also because it's super over-regulated and over-complicated. And the more complicated that regulation is, there's more need for tools like ours to solve and try to make this more harmonized as possible for global firms to follow compliance requirements.
Let's talk about the tool a little bit because I think it's quite interesting. Is the idea that a crypto firm can use it to understand the compliance requirements across multiple different jurisdictions and reduce the cost of that? Because, especially in the United States, we talk a lot about the huge cost and the massive amount of resources required to be compliant in just one jurisdiction. So I can't imagine when you add more into the mix. Talk to me a little bit about how folks use the tool.
Of course. So that's the main use case we want to solve. Like global firms, at least like regional firms that need to comply with more than one regulation. And you brought the case of the US. The US have like several state regulations, one federal regulations, the same for Europe, one European based and several countries. Then firms have to be like licensed in one country and passporting to other countries. Sometimes these rules are contradictory itself, and sometimes they complement itself. So first of all, Regdor will help on that fast discovery. So when you go to your lawyers, then you know at least your question. So you can like frame how is the overview, the framework, who is the regulator, who should I talk with? Is there any association that I could leverage from? So the product, talking about the Regdor is a knowledge management tool for regulatory and policy affairs. Compliance as well, but it's more focused on what's coming ahead. I need to be ahead. I don't want to be proactive and jeopardize my business. I want to be, proactive and understanding what's coming as a regulatory trend, so I can understand with a click what's happening in Brazil. If I'm going to Turkey tomorrow, who are the regulators? So it's the regulation, the consultations, and the people. So we bring like a stakeholder map of who is who within their legislators for 60 jurisdictions, regulators, associations, service providers, advisors, legal, legal professionals, and other tools that I can, if I want to go today from Brazil to Turkey, I don't have to spend, like was my case in one of the firms I worked for, 4 months to understand the big picture and then to go there and try to do my business. So with a click in Regdor, I will cancel like that's the overview. That are the regulators. Let me compare and contrast with the Brazilian regulation that I understand, so I can, save my valuable time, which costs a lot. And also, we want to bring a memory for the company. So it's kind of giving a compass and bringing a memory of all these government interactions for inside the company. So when we have churn and people leaving, turn around, we don't lose this memory, and also with time. So there's also a CRM alike for regulatory interactions.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining our broadcast today. It was a pleasure hearing from you, and good luck as you enter more markets.
Thank you so much. Appreciated everything.
Thank you,
guys.
That was Regdor co-founder Nicole Dyscant. All right, we are now going to take a look at the chart of the day. And surprise, surprise, we are taking a look at Stellar's native token XLM, which is up over 300% on the year. It recently showed strong resilience, rebounding sharply to nearly 39 cents after a brief dip to 38 overnight. Elevated trading activity around the 38-cent mark signaled strong demand and what appears to be institutional accumulation, establishing it as a key support area. Now, the token's performance underscores the real-world utility that we've been talking about at this desk for the last 2 days, and major enterprise adoption that has been showcased here at Stellar Meridian as well. Major announcements from partners like MoneyGram and PayPal are demonstrating how the network is being used as a foundational layer from everything from next-generation remittances to institutional-grade tokenized assets. All right, that was your chart of the day. Sam and I are going to take a quick break. We will be back in just about a minute.
You send money to your mom back home, right? And it's not always straightforward, is it?
It's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Now try sending money to millions of people during a crisis. It is a logistical nightmare.
So tell me, is there any waking up from this nightmare?
We have access to a tool called Stellar Aid Assist.
Stellar
Aid Assist.
Right, Aid Assist.
The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field. But where there's a problem, there's a solution. Access to the digital economy is still out of reach for many. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world. Sending money around the world is still too hard for too many. But if ideas are borderless, opportunity should be too. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world. The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field.
Puedo mandarle dinero a mi familia, pero quién sabe cuánto llegará.
Як ми відновимося? Як захистимо їхнє майбутнє?
كلما ادخرت ازداد شعوري بعدم الأمان.
That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world.
Hello and welcome back to CoinDesk Live. We are at Stellar Meridian 2025 and we are about to break some news. So let's welcome in our guests now. We're joined by Larry Wade, Global Head of Compliance and Regulatory Relations for Crypto at PayPal, and Jose Fernandez de Ponte, President and Chief Growth Officer at the Stellar Development Foundation. Guys,
yes.
Are you ready for it?
Ready.
All right, who's going to do it? Larry?
I got it. Well, one, extremely thankful to be here. Awesome. Breaking news, we are now officially live with PYUSD on Stellar. Extremely excited, great partnership with Jose and Stellar Foundation, and we cannot wait to deploy this chain and really help to revolutionize commerce. So we're excited.
All right, so we have PYUSD on Stellar.
Yep.
Jose, we are merging the two worlds that I at least know you from. Talk to us a little bit about what this means for Stellar to have the PayPal stablecoin on the Stellar network.
And peanut butter and jelly. So these are two of the favorite things that I have. I think that is is incredibly relevant. If you think of PayPal and PUSD is obviously the OG of stablecoins issued by large fintechs. PayPal went into that space way before it was fashionable. Is one of the largest stablecoins issued in the US at 1.3 billion in market cap. One thing that is probably not very well known is one of the fastest growing stablecoins in the world. It's up 160% in market cap year to date, and obviously is supported in the PayPal and Venmo ecosystem. What does it mean for us? Users of Stellar wallets anywhere, now they have a way, if you have a PUSD on in a Stellar wallet, let's say Cheaper Cash or Bitcoin.com, now you can send value to millions of Venmo and PayPal users. And when they go live with their with crypto that they have announced, they will be able to pay from Stellar wallets and millions of PayPal merchants. If we want to be the blockchain for everyday financial services, PayPal is definitely a huge partner and a great distribution channel for us doing that.
I'm interested in both Stellar and PayPal had an early mover advantage in this space. And I think the fact that Stellar was always a blockchain really built for payments and remittances, PayPal is a juggernaut in that. How does this really serve the long-term vision of PayPal?
Yeah, I mean, we're all in on crypto. As our CEO, Alex Chris, likes to say, we want to revolutionize commerce. And I believe we have tailwinds now that we have not seen since the inception of this industry. So being able to ensure that we have a chain with integrity that's fast and cheap, because ultimately faster, cheaper, programmable with near instant finality, those are the important things that you need as you guys start to integrate with, for example, our two-sided network, which we have approximately 400 million wallets worldwide with merchants and consumers. And there's just a lot of friction and pain points that we feel this technology can benefit. And obviously, you need to ensure that you have the right chain aligned to the stablecoin.
Larry, I'm sure folks watching at home are curious about the due diligence you've done when choosing a chain.
Yeah.
What kind of due diligence goes into this process? How can you assure folks at home that Stellar, is a network that they can put their trust in?
Absolutely, and PYUSD is a regulated stablecoin, and obviously compliance and consumer protection are front and center for PayPal. So, we have, I won't go too much into the weeds, but robust coin listing policies, continuous monitoring and vetting to ensure the integrity of chains and partners, key third parties. Just overall ensuring that upfront we do what is required, that we continue to monitor, and if things change, we can deprecate. But it's very robust, regulatory compliant, and also not just the US regulators, but thinking about how does this interact with regulators around the world.
Jose, what does a partnership like this bring to Stellar? You guys are already known as being, again, sort of ahead of the curve in this, but I assume the more brands, the more use cases are really what sort of justifies the hard work you've put in.
Look, we were talking about what it goes into those diligences. There is this quote from, I think it's a Nobel Peace Prize from Kenya, who's saying what people interpret as fearlessness is persistence, right? So we've been at this game for a long, long time. One of the things that we take a ton of pride is our 99.99 uptime over 10 years. So those are things that, and PayPal has been at this for even longer. We really think that the road to mass adoption goes through enterprises and institutions. The developer ecosystem is fantastically active and vibrant, as we are seeing in this conference over these days, bringing more names like PayPal, like Franklin Templeton, like WisdomTree, like MoneyGram. All those are channels that will help us get this technology to the masses, because we need to meet users where they are. And people want to use their PayPal account. People want to use their Venmo account. Merchants want to interact with them. So we want to be in as many places as we can, so this technology is in the water supply, and it disappears in the background. So users will meet us where they want to interact with us.
Speaking of use cases, we've heard of PayFi. Jose, just kind of explain what that is for us and how it works.
PayFi is one of the versions of DeFi, if you want, where merchants can get advances. Think of it as similar to a working capital loan. I am a merchant, I have a receivable, and if I can use that receivable as collateral to receive funding in PYUSD. There are a number of players in the ecosystem, on the DeFi ecosystem at Stellar, that provide that, and it's a huge advantage, especially for smaller and medium-sized merchants in some of the geographies where access to credit is more limited.
I'd love to hear your perspective on PayFi.
Interestingly enough, early in my career, I was an SMB credit analyst.
Okay.
So this is near and dear to my heart, and understanding that even when a small to medium-sized business has revenue and is even profitable, working capital is usually one of those constraints that can kind of make or break an organization. So when you're thinking of net terms and standby letters of credit and assignment of proceeds, when you can utilize blockchain technology and the ability to tokenize and bring that liquidity, my goodness, I think it could be a game changer for that space, and I'm really excited about it.
Larry, when Jose was at PayPal, I asked him this question. Now I'm going to ask it to you.
Go for it.
Are we going to see a consolidation of stablecoins?
That's a good question. I will say this. We are very bullish on the utility of PYUSD. We do believe that overall there'll be a number of stablecoins, and we want the ecosystem to grow and win. But we are really focused on the use cases that we can actually deploy PYUSD to, and partner with organizations such as Stellar.
I'm interested now to hear both your perspectives. If we were having this conversation 8 years ago, a lot of people would talk about all the illicit side of payments. Now, this conversation is happening, the top governments in the world, the top firms in the world, we're not hearing that conversation very much anymore. But focusing on compliance and how we're doing this correctly is something that I think probably PayPal has had to think about since inception.
Yes.
How do you apply that thinking to the crypto industry and blockchain?
It's funny, again, near and dear to my heart here.
Yeah.
When we first started, there was a notion of, are we a bit too slow? Because we had to go about it in a compliant and thoughtful way. I can say this because I've been doing this for a long time now. From BSA AML sanctions to fraud typologies, et cetera. This technology allows you to actually manage your risk more effectively. It will allow you to partner with regulators more effectively, just because there's more transparency, there's more ability to understand different patterns, et cetera. And you can actually move more swiftly depending on what you see, because things are on chain. So I'm actually bullish on the compliance aspect of this, and I think we're only going to continue to see different groups come in and bring various solutions.
Jose, Larry, thank you so much for joining us at the desk and breaking that news. Congratulations on the partnership.
Really excited.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was Larry Wade from PayPal and Jose Fernandez de Ponte from the Stellar Development Foundation. We are going to take a quick break. We will be right back.
You send money to your mom back home, right? And it's not always straightforward, is it?
It's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Now try sending money to millions of people during a crisis. It is a logistical nightmare.
So tell me, is there any waking up from this nightmare?
We have access to a tool called Stellar Aid Assist.
Stellar
Aid Assist.
Right, Aid Assist.
The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field. But where there's a problem, there's a solution. Access to the digital economy is still out of reach for many. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world.
Hello, and welcome back to CoinDesk Live from Stellar Meridian 2025. Our next guest is leading the charge. She's been at the center of it all. Please welcome Stellar Development Foundation CEO and Executive Director Danelle Dixon. Danelle, hello.
Hello. Hello to you both.
Talk to us about being here in Rio. Stellar Meridian 2025 is taking place here. I imagine you've been doing a lot of work to get here. Talk to us about the journey and why Rio?
Yeah, I'm going to first start with why Rio. We needed it to be in South America. We haven't been to South America before with the Meridian, and Brazil's the perfect spot for it. And then frankly, when you think about Brazil and you think about the place to be able to have, like they already call Rio the Silicon Beach of the area with AI, they're focused on digital. They have a regulation here that already allows individuals to pay their taxes in crypto, very friendly to what we're doing. So it made a ton of sense. And it has been great because everyone loves that it's here in Rio. So that's that. In terms of the work that we've done to get here, I mean, so much of it is like we try not to make any announcements before the things actually drop. So before it's actually active on the network. And it's so fun because Meridian becomes a forcing function. So there's all this stuff that we've been talking about since we've been here that's now come to life. So it makes me happy that we can talk about it publicly.
We've done this a lot. I think it's our third together. I've always said to you, this is, every time it's like, we now have leapfrogged to the next stage. So I'm just interested in thinking about how it feels to be where you're at. Stellar's had a great year. But also, I think a lot of things we were talking about a couple of years ago as sort of hypotheticals are now reality. Yeah. So what does that feel like, having sort of gotten to where we're at, and I'm sure looking towards the future?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because I say now, it's really cool to be OG. And we're so OG, given that we're 11 years old. And I've been in this for almost 7 years and just really focused on asset issuance, payments, making sure that we actually have these everyday financial services. It hasn't been sexy, it hasn't been cool, but you guys, it is now. So I kind of look at it and I think like this is like everything we've talked about and done for all of these years is happening. It's here and everybody wants to be there. Not just this chain, everybody wants to be there on other chains. And you know, we talk about, is it patience, is it prescience? I don't know, but it's really nice to see.
Danelle, I was really trying hard not to ask you to choose a favorite baby, but there's been a lot of announcements made here, like you just mentioned. And maybe don't tell us your favorite, you can tell us multiple, but what are some that really stand out, that really kind of show the public the direction in which Stellar is heading?
So I would think about it as less about one, for example, asset that's issued, and I would think about it from this standpoint. We just at Meridian have announced access to over $3 billion worth of real world assets on Stellar. So there's lots of issuers, PYUSD, Ondo, Mercado Bitcoin, Centrifuge. There's a lot of them that have come into play. Red Swan doing tokenized real estate. So think about it more as, why is that so crucial? It's because assets are the first way to be able to get to those everyday financial services. And if you want to know like the real thing that matters to me, it's those everyday financial services. I'm going to keep hammering that every single day. You need credit. You need the ability to have lending. You need to have borrowing. You need to have the ability to be able to send value. That is what we need. And to get there, we need these different assets. And to see that access now is really cool.
And also, I mean, PayPal, we had Visa here before, Red Swan, Ondo, all of these are names that are really trying to build more and more from very traditional businesses to startups. I think, I'm wondering how your opinion of like what the unlock of the last year within the regulatory framing has been that's allowed this stuff to really supercharge.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, of course, like in the US, having the Genius Act, having just more openness to this tech stack has been amazing. And I think it's opened up the traditional financial infrastructure more to be relevant and to look at blockchain and say, here's another rail that I want to participate in. So that's been great. I do also think that it was just time. Like if you think about what was happening and all of the different ways that we were already seeing so many payments, so much velocity on the network, it was time to be able to bring this all together. But there's a lot more work to do. I mean, with traditional financial infrastructure, you need to focus on privacy. And so privacy is a big piece of what we're looking for because we want those everyday financial services for businesses and for humans, but you need to have privacy be a part of it. And I guess like that's what makes me more excited is that there's still more to do and it's really fun work.
Can I double down on the privacy conversation? Because I think we've had that now a number of times here. If you're a Franklin Templeton, you may not want every signal on chain transparently. But I think the ethos of kind of early Bitcoiners were like, no, everything is on chain, you can see it all. How do you balance those?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it from the standpoint of you have to settle on chain. It's whether you settle, for example, in 4 transactions for one thing so that you can't see the amounts so transparently, but the settlement from each account is going to be transparent. Sometimes you're going to make it so that the accounts themselves are not transparent in that single transaction, but the value transfer is. So it's a fine balance. When you bring in traditional financial infrastructure, you got to think like, what is it? Privacy is required to do that. It doesn't have to be the same type of privacy that TradFi has already thought about. We need to do it in a way that makes the most sense on chain. So that is the thing that's the egg that you need to crack. You need to get there and make sure that it makes sense on chain. And you need to balance the need for complete transparency with the need for getting people to be able to use this rail that's going to change their lives.
You mentioned access just a moment ago, and that really has been a theme that's come through here at Meridian. And I've asked this question to a few folks at the desk. I think it's important for the people watching at home to understand where the leaders in the space are coming from. But what drives you to bring that financial access to areas like Latin America?
Well, I mean, I think about it, and I think about the fact that we take so much for granted when you live in the West or when you actually have access to bank accounts or you choose. Like a lot of folks in Latin America and South America, they choose not to be able to engage with those banks because for whatever reason. To allow a different rail is it's game changing. I've seen it. I travel all over the world. I meet with people. I listen to their challenges because we can't understand them all. And that's the thing that I love about my job. I never take for granted the fact that we have what we have, but I also don't pretend that I can solve their problems. they solve their problems. Like local builders solve these challenges. And so for me, access just means like opening up the world in the same way that when I started working at Mozilla years ago, open web opened up the world for content to everybody. I think about this, it's so much more important to open up the world to ease of use of financial services for everybody. So it's much more of like a pull from way back when to today, openness, transparency, making sure that we actually deliver the kind of access that I think is really important for everyone.
You know, the theme of this Meridian, from blueprint to breakthrough, if we were to pull out on that scale, where is Stellar right now?
It's so interesting because if I think about Stellar, Stellar is the blueprint, and that blueprint doesn't become anything until people build on top of it. I say that we're not quite to the middle in terms of the scale yet, but we're headed in that direction, and we're headed there fast. I mean, it feels crazy to say that since I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's really in the last 2 years that we've seen a ton of unlock. But we really needed to build all that foundation to create that blueprint, and then to really let people build on top of it and show us what they can do, which I think is where we are.
This is Sam's third Meridian. It's my first one. He said every year he comes here and there are more and more people. What I love about going to these events all over the world is to see the community that we experience like on X at home really come together IRL, really show their passion for the projects that are building in the ecosystem, hear the types of things they're talking about, like really seeing that it's real is kind of incredible. Talk to me about experiencing that, having the community here from institutions that are in the Stellar network to investors that are interested in XLM. It must be incredible for you.
Well, yeah, it is this is my favorite time of year. It's also the most exhausting time of year for us to like get this together and to attend it. I absolutely love that when I get to walk around and I get to meet people coming from all over the world and hear their stories. It actually validates the reason why we're in this. The community that has been built around Stellar in all parts of the world, the ambassador program, you see these ambassadors, like these programs get to 400, 500, 700, thousands of people that care about what's happening on Stellar. It's more than heartwarming. It's a validation of everything that we've been fighting for so long. And it is this, I think that one of the things I'd say about Stellar and the Stellar community that differentiates it from so many others is that we're not transactional here. We actually care about helping people to build. And I want more people to come on. I'm constantly like, we can do this. Like we can bring more people on. We can figure out how to support them. So it's pretty, it's very emotional in terms of how much we do to get here, but then to see it all come to life, to see the pitches, to hear the stories, to be able to see the institutions that are like, hey, this network is strong enough, not just for the small players, it's strong enough for us. I mean, there's nothing better that you can have than that.
I just want to throw in, because we've been doing this now for so many years, it is unique for me. I always say this is my favorite event because it's like we will walk around and talk to people from Africa, from LATAM, from Asia. Every one of them has a story like you're just saying, and it is the reason so many people got into crypto. And I think sometimes when we're at events where people are talking about yield and transaction volume and number go up type language, I think we start to lose the ethos of why we all do this. So just congratulations to you and the team for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I love that you said that. It's exactly how I feel. And it doesn't mean that yield and TVL and all of those things aren't important, but that is not how we measure ourselves. And I think if we're not doing right by the entities that are trying to build on this network and make it better, and we're not supporting their growth, then we're never going to be successful. You can focus on TVL all you want. You could have value locked, but it's not doing anything. This is why I always talk about the fact that I understand volume is an important piece in this industry, but velocity and usage has to someday take over the volume metric. And it will, and I think it will probably, I think it will in 2026 by the end of the year, that we're going to see a more of a focus on what's actually happening and not just on, oh, is there yield and is there volume and what are people doing? Like, you know, how are we going to get more of that? So it is, and I thank you for recognizing it. And it's one of the things that I believe it starts, everybody has to be aligned with it within the organization, within like our, just in the ambassador program, everybody has to be aligned with that. And I think that makes it so that then it comes to life.
Danelle, it's been such a pleasure having you at the desk. Congratulations on a fantastic event, and I'm sure we'll see you around later.
Yeah, thank you guys. So good to have you.
That was Danelle Dixon, the CEO and Executive Director of the Stellar Development Foundation. All right, Sam, we are continuing to truck along. I love what you just brought up there. I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday, is these real people and real stories that are being impacted by what's being built in the space. It's not just about price action. It's not just about meme coins and the things that grab quick headlines. It really is about changing lives, and that's what helps me, that's what makes me excited to wake up in the morning.
Well, I think, look, we spoke today to Ruben from AirTM. When AirTM was getting started, it really was about these online workers had no way to actually get money out in these remote locations around the world. We talked to Edward yesterday from the Akuna wallet, and they're about solving the challenge of creators can't even get paid by YouTube. And how do we try to unlock the opportunity for people to be successful? We know how our world has changed since back in the old days where everyone just worked at the same company for 25 years. And we need those stories, we need those use cases, but also we need the infrastructure to enable this to happen. And I do think Stellar does that almost better than anybody.
Yeah, well, let's get to our next story. There is a new $50 million fund on the block, and it's called Onigiri Capital, launched by Japan's Credit Saison. The fund is dedicated to connecting Brazilian and Latin American founders with Asia's institutional markets. Joining us now is Onigiri Capital Managing Partner, Chin and Louis. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, this is quite interesting. We've been talking a lot about what's happening here in Latin America. We've been talking a lot about the entrepreneurs and the builders. And what Onigiri Capital is doing is connecting those folks with institutional investors in Asia. Talk to me about that bridge.
It's a bridge that is not obvious at first glance, but what really excites us is that today, more than half of the global users of blockchain are in Asia. So if you are not looking at Asia as you grow, you're missing out on more than half of your potential total market. And what's unique about Latin America and Asia is that there are a lot of similarities. There are many economies that are rapidly growing, a lot of the infrastructure is maturing, but more importantly, we see blockchain providing an opportunity to leapfrog. Right? So we don't have to just go with the traditional evolution path of from paper to fintech to blockchain. We're going direct to blockchain. We see that happening in Asia. We see that happening here in LATAM.
I'm going to expose something, which was last night we had one of the best Japanese meals I've ever had in Brazil.
So delicious.
And then in mentioning that, some people were saying there's a really vibrant Japanese community here.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering, what's the connection between Japan and Brazil?
Absolutely. So outside of Japan, the largest Japanese expat population is right here in Sao Paulo. Right, so it's really insane because this really started 2 generations ago, and so far Brazil and Japan has had this tie that cuts across culture, cuts across trade, and that's really something that we really want to bring to this new technology that we have here today. If you think about how money moves, it's still going through very traditional rails that existed 5 decades ago. So we see blockchain as a way of facilitating some of those connections on a whole different level.
All right, what's your thesis? What kind of firms are you looking at?
We believe in blockchain's potential to transform the future of finance. So we're really looking at any blockchain startup that's creating financial products and services. This includes stablecoins, payments, tokenized assets, DeFi, and financial markets infrastructure.
When you look at those, is there something you're looking for from a founder, from an idea that is it about uniqueness and never been done, or is it you're taking a proven case and you're actually just amplifying it?
What we really look for is distribution advantage. So do you have specific access to customer segments, whether consumer or businesses, that you have unfair advantage to? Because the fact of the matter is today, when you talk about a stable coin, a payment product, it's pretty much a dime a dozen, right? Creating these products are not technically difficult anymore. And with Stellar's sort of support, the open infrastructure, it's just so easy, right? But what is a lot harder is to get distribution, is to get users, is to get customers. So that to us is what's truly important. We're looking for founders with the access to hard to reach customer segments, and then we want to support them.
I'm going to reveal some more. Sam and I are actually going to be in Asia next week. And I know that you're also building a community with your on-chain conference, and this is going to be all around real-world assets. Sam and I have been talking about real-world assets at the desk today. Talk to us about that and building a community around this in Asia.
So the community of on-chain was actually what led to Onigiri Capital being started. What we saw is more and more Asian financial institutions, your banks, your asset managers, they were coming to us to say, hey, we want to understand this blockchain thing, right? We suspect it is going to disrupt our business, but we want to figure out a safe and reliable way to truly understand and get our hands in. So that's why we set up on-chain as the platform where we can connect founders and builders to these institutions. And then that was actually how Onigiri Capital was born, right? Where we invited these Asian institutions to come on board as our investors of the fund with not just the purpose of making money, but more importantly to discover startups that they can bring in and innovate internally. And I think that to us is really exciting because startups bring the energy, bring the technology, but institutions bring the trust, they bring the customers. And we think that when both come together, that's where the magic happens.
And what is Onigiri's relationship with Stellar? How do you guys work together? Are they helping to bubble up ideas and deal flow? What's the relationship there?
Yeah, so we're really excited to partner with Stellar because what we see Stellar's mission is very aligned with what we're trying to do. Stellar was created to enable financial innovation to happen. They have been pioneers in bringing tokenized assets on-chain. And what we have noticed is that Stellar has been especially strong in Western markets in terms of their collaborations and partnerships. So Onigiri Capital and Stellar are now working together to bring some of that same success, some of the same stories, the same technology to Asia. And what we're seeing is that in very key markets in Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, these are all markets that are hungry for blockchains that are compliant on-chain.
Clarify something for me. The investment is going to be made in startups that are largely founded in Latin America. Is that correct?
It's a global mandate, but I think we are particularly excited at backing founders in Brazil because what we are seeing is that Brazil is one of the most advanced markets among emerging economies in terms of fintech innovation. We see a very high quality of talent over here. So we're going to back Latin American founders, especially, and we have a special focus on Brazil in particular, and we want to help them export their technology, their products to Asia.
I'm interested in going back to Japan in the sense that we know next week is Korea Blockchain Week, Token is in Singapore the next week, our event is in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Is Japan where it needs to be in the crypto market? What's the vibe and the sentiments in Japan itself?
Yeah, Japan has always been a later mover, a slower mover, but when it moves large, right? And the commitments are significant. We are seeing that already happen as we speak. In the past 6 months, we had not just the first US dollar stablecoin that's approved, we had the first Japanese yen stablecoin that has been approved. So what we're seeing is really a lot of influx of activity, a lot of support from multiple parties, the regulators, the startups, the investors, the financial institutions. So we think that Japan is a place that one cannot miss out on.
You know, we talk a lot, and we have talked a lot on this show about US dollar-backed stablecoins. You mentioned Japan just got approval for a yen-backed stablecoin.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about the significance of that, because I think it's big.
Absolutely. So if you think about the G3 currencies, the three most significant currencies, obviously number one is the US dollar. And I think the US dollar stablecoin has achieved product market fit. No debate about that, right? And then the second currency is the euro. And we are seeing that adoption start to pick up, especially with the MiCA regulations in place. Then the question is, who is the third? The third is the Japanese yen. And so when you take into account that the first Japanese yen stablecoin is finally available, we think this is a huge move that will fundamentally change global markets.
I'm interested, just last question, what got you personally interested in crypto?
To me, it's really the potential of it being able to change how money moves. To me, it's insane that today, if I want to contact either of you, I send a text message, you get it right away. But let's say I want to send $10 to you, oh, look, the banks in Singapore are now closed, right? So you can get the money, and if today is a Friday night, sorry, you only get the transfer on Monday. So I think what really excites me is blockchain is presenting new rails for money to move, and finally we can put these whole financial world at the speed of internet.
Chen, thank you so much for joining us here at the desk.
Thank you.
That was Onigiri Capital Managing Partner, Chin and Lui. We are going to take a quick break. We will be right back.
You send money to your mom back home, right? And it's not always straightforward, is it?
It's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Now try sending money to millions of people during a crisis. It is a logistical nightmare.
So tell me, is there any waking up from this nightmare?
We have access to a tool called Stellar Aid Assist.
Stellar
Aid Assist.
Right, Aid Assist.
The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field. But where there's a problem, there's a solution. Access to the digital economy is still out of reach for many. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world. Sending money around the world is still too hard for too many. But if ideas are borderless, opportunity should be too. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world. The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field.
Puedo mandarle dinero a mi familia, pero quién sabe cuánto llegará.
Як ми відновимося? Як захистимо їхнє майбутнє?
كلما ادخرت ازداد شعوري بعدم الأمان.
That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world.
Hello and welcome back to CoinDesk Live. We are coming to you from Stellar Meridian 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Now, we have broken some news here at the desk and we're going to continue doing it, although I don't know if we've broken it. You guys might have talked about it already at the conference, but let's talk about some news that's come out today. Centrifuge is launching at $20 million in tokenized treasuries and CLOs on Stellar, bringing institutional grade yield directly into DeFi apps for the first time. Joining us now to discuss this are Raja Chakravorty from the Stellar Development Foundation, Vin Tran from Wisdom Tree, and Graham Nelson from Centrifuge. Hello.
Hey. Hi, it's great to see you.
It's good to see you too, and I got to start here. We are at Stellar Meridian in Rio. Raja, I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about what you've been getting up to.
Well, besides the caipirinhas, which have been delicious, we have been having tremendous conversations. It's really phenomenal engagement across the ecosystem. I've been so impressed with the level of engagement with builders and developers that are in Brazil. We've had over 500 different developers hacking for multiple days. We've had institutional clients come on board, and we've been able to bridge this kind of connectivity between the two sides, and we're really seeing innovative projects, and I'm so excited for what that means for Stellar coming into next year.
We've talked about that a lot here at the desk, this really engaged developer community in Brazil. They're really focused on solving real world problems for real people that we don't always get to talk about when we're talking about some of the things we do. And I'm back at the studio in New York, and so it's been really incredible to see.
100%.
All right, Graham, I'm gonna come over to you. Talk to us about this news.
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited. So thanks for having us here. We announced yesterday that we're launching our DERWAs. So that will be the Janus Henderson Treasury Fund, as well as the Janus Henderson AAA rated CLO. They'll be coming to Stellar. They're a freely transferable version as well. So once they're on Stellar, they're freely transferable. Anybody can buy them. They're fully integrated into the Stellar ecosystem from day one. When they launch, we'll have Aquarius and SoraSwap support, the Findex for savings products, and Blend for lending markets as well. So I think we're really excited to bring these RWAs to Stellar and get really like a big access for the emerging markets and all the Stellar builders, as well as the Stellar users, to get access to RWA yield.
Why is now the right moment for this?
I mean, I think we've got the right regulatory tailwind more recently, and I think we're really excited because the yield and the demand is there now for RWAs. And Stellar is providing a great ecosystem to allow that to really take off. And so we're really excited to be building on Stellar and launching it on Stellar.
Ben, from where you sit, just talk to us a little bit about the impact of this. Like, tell our audience what this actually means.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's really amazing to see institutions come on chain and to be issuing different types of assets. Obviously, as background, right, at Wisdom Tree, we have 14 funds tokenized across Stellar and 5 other chains. And I think as we increase that optionality, as we increase the types of use cases that we can be done on chain and the different funds that can be invested on chain, I think that's just a better experience for investors, and it's really exciting to see. So big kudos to the team at Stellar and Centrifuge for making it happen.
And Raja, talk to us a little bit about what this says about Stellar's push into the world of RWAs.
Yeah, well, I think it's really, really important for us. I mean, the immediate impact of this launch is phenomenal. It's immediately available in trading and liquidity provisions. It's immediately available for lending and borrowing, and then for yield-backed savings. And that's really important for us because what we're really trying to signal here is a maturity around the use and usability of RWAs. And these RWAs can be immediately used within the DeFi ecosystem as well. And so the push that you're seeing for us is how do we connect these sorts of assets to solve real world use cases by leveraging the technology. And that's very, very powerful. I think it signals a very specific maturing of what is happening in the industry. And we're really proud of what that's going to look like on Stellar, because ultimately for us, our key use case is how do we connect to real world problems. I think the other component for me, which I'm really excited about, is we are by definition a global network. And now we're going to be able to bring these types of products to a global audience. And that really is the opportunity that we have at hand, because it means that we're actually touching people across every corridor that is very important for Stellar to be touching.
Unpack that a little bit more for me. Tell us about those real world use cases. Make this more tangible.
Yeah, so I think, we talked a little bit about the idea of like a yield-backed savings. So you are now able to give people access to an asset that is high-grade, institutional level. We're talking about CLOs, we're talking about treasuries, and you're giving access to those what are, I think, previously looked at as relatively complex financial products, but have really interesting and impactful opportunities to get access to yield that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So if you're sitting in a country where you may not have access to these sorts of safe but complex investments, you might only be able to get to like very, very small components of what you do. But now you can create a diversified investment strategy, which is something that people could only dream about before.
Graham, I want you to build a little bit more on that. Talk to me about what this means for emerging markets, many of which have never had access to products like this.
I think Raj already spoke on it already. I think it just opens up a new yield source for these individuals to earn yield on their assets and plug it into their everyday, neobank solutions, right? I think what excites me about Stellar is all these neobank style wallets that are sort of coming up. And, to have savings that are driven by RWA yields, I think is a really exciting thing for the emerging market, right? Savings on these currencies, allow them to spend it anywhere in the market. And I think that's really what's exciting, at least for us on Stellar.
Vin, from WisdomTree's perspective, why the Stellar ecosystem?
To Roger's point, I think the excitement's here and the energy is high. We've been at Meridian now for only a day, and you could see so much energy here, particularly around RWAs. And I think the use cases that we've talked about, collateral use cases, spending, those are things that we're actively building at WisdomTree. We have retail distribution and institutional, and I think the next wave of innovation is going to be not just about tokenizing funds, but about what we can do on chain with these funds. And I think
Yeah, I want to build a little bit more on that. We've talked about real-world assets at the desk from multiple different lenses today. And just from where you're sitting, what other asset classes or use cases are you excited about when it comes to tokenization?
So for an announcement's sake, we launched last week a private credit and alternative income fund. And just talking about that at the conference, a lot of people, retail and institutional, are very excited about these types of different on-chain assets. And I think that is just an example of what is possible on-chain. Think AI, think emerging markets. I think as more RWAs, issuers like Centrifuge and WisdomTree, institutions are here and they're coming. And I think that's what's exciting about the RWA space.
All right, we have a hot take section now. Raja, are you ready?
I'm very ready.
You're very ready?
Yes.
Okay. One word to describe the significance of what we've just spoken about. What is it?
Game changing.
Graham?
The road to $1 trillion of RWA is tokenized on chain.
That was way more than one word. But that's okay, we're flexible here.
It's scale. We're past the experimentation phase, and we're at a point where it's time to really build and see what's possible on chain.
Yeah, I will say one thing. Vin hasn't shared that RWA for him also means real-world accidents. He tweaked his ankle in the RWA volleyball tournament, but they did end up winning, so
wow.
That's a win.
All right. Thank you all for joining me on stage here. Congratulations on the launch, and we'll see you around the conference.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, that was Graham Nelson from Centrifuge, Raja Chakravorty from the Stellar Development Foundation, and Vintran from Wisdom Tree. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Sending money around the world is still too hard for too many. But if ideas are borderless, opportunity should be too. That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Your world relies on you. Who can you rely on? Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world. The truth is, we're not all on the same playing field.
Puedo mandarle dinero a mi familia, pero quién sabe cuánto llegará.
Як ми відновимося? Як захистимо їхнє майбутнє?
كلما ادخرت ازداد شعوري بعدم الأمان.
That's where builders can help. You understand that one unique problem. Let's bring balance to an imbalanced world. Stellar, where blockchain meets the real world.
Hello and welcome back to CoinDesk Live from Stellar Meridian 2025. All right, our next guest is here with us, one of Brazil's leading voices on the intersection of law, technology, and society. As the founder of the Institute for Technology and Society of Rio, he is advising Brazil's central bank on the creation of DREX. He also connects this local expertise with a global perspective as a board member of the Stellar Development Foundation. Ronaldo Lemos, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Ronaldo.
Hi.
All right, we haven't talked at all about DREX on the show, and so I'm really excited that we are going to wrap it up by talking about it. ITS has been working with the central bank on DREX. This is Brazil's central bank digital currency. Tell us a little bit about the progress that's been made here and what's driving the central bank to launch this.
Absolutely. So Brazil has been very innovative in terms of changing finance, and the pillars of this innovation are PIX, which I think everyone gets to know. It's a payment system, very well designed, that allows for instant payments in Brazil at no cost for the end user. But the second pillar is actually DREX, which is the Real Digital, the digital version of the Brazilian currency. And the important thing about DREX is that it's programmable. So the idea is not only to release a digital version of the currency, but to make it programmable and integrated with platforms. And my hope is with Soroban and other platforms as well, so that you can actually create smart contracts on top of it. So that's the plan. And we are advising the central bank, especially on the privacy issue, which is not simple, especially because of the scale of Brazil. But we're trying to solve that problem so that DEX can be released in full as soon as possible.
I think if you can, explain the difference between a CBDC and a stablecoin. I think our audience sometimes gets them confused. But in addition, maybe you can also talk about whether the end user cares,
Yeah, this is a great question. First, CBDCs, they are public money issued by the central bank, so the liability lies on the central bank itself. A stablecoin is issued by a particular project, and the liability is on that project itself. So there are two different things. So the Brazilian digital real will be just like a digital version of fiat money issued by the central bank. The user actually, it doesn't care that much about the pipelines. It doesn't know the nitty-gritty of how DREX works and how it operates, but it cares a lot about the applications. So the user is looking for new applications, just like what PIX has become. PIX is a huge success. Just to give you a sense, every day there are 2.3 transactions of PIX by person in Brazil. And we have like 210 million people in Brazil, and each day there's like 2 transactions, 0.3 by PIX. So it works because the end applications are very valuable. And with DREX, it's going to be the same thing. So the applications are collaterals. You can build collaterals through smart contracts. And also democratizing finance Brazil Treasury bills, they pay a lot. They pay about 15% a year, which is higher than the US. And the Brazilian currency has been pretty stable for the past many years. So how do you democratize that? You can provide actually access to those bills to a lot of customers that don't have access to them right now. That's a good application for the Real Digital. And even maybe to people outside Brazil that can have access to those high-yielding bills that are issued in Brazil.
You brought up privacy at the beginning of our conversation, and I think that's something that comes up a lot when we talk about CBDCs, is people's concern of government overreach and privacy. How have you been talking to the government, or the central bank here in Brazil about that?
This is actually a key issue, and because of privacy, Drex has been held back. The schedule has been delayed. So now it's 2026, and maybe even a simpler architecture, less ambitious in the beginning. And the key concern is precisely that. So there are people that are afraid that if you use a governmental issued type of money, the government will be able to see everything that we do. And we don't want that. Actually, we want the real to work just like a physical bill, so that you can actually do whatever you have to do without this loss of the expectation of privacy. So we are looking into how that can be achieved. And of course, there are things in which privacy, transparency is actually desirable. So public expenditure, most of it is actually at the public interest, that you know how the state is spending money. So for those cases, privacy is basically a lesser concern, but for the day-to-day use of money for citizens in Brazil, this is a very important concern. So the central bank has been looking into architectures that enable privacy. I myself am looking in things like homomorphic fully encryption, which I think it's a new technology that can be important for what Drex wants to achieve. And I think that's the way to go. It's a mix between legal measures and also architecture measures that can ensure the privacy side of it.
I'm interested in you're talking about the homomorphic encryption. Mm-hmm. It sounds like the Drex project may be moving a little bit away from blockchain. We're here at a blockchain event.
True.
Is that a decision that's made because of certain conditions, or is it maybe blockchain isn't yet the tool that is good for Drex?
Yeah. I think the ultimate goal is to make it to the blockchain, because otherwise it's kind of pointless, right? What do you have to achieve? Blockchains are universal. Blockchains are cross-border infrastructure, so they must be the ultimate goal. So what I see is that the central bank is actually creating a pilot to be launched next year that has a different architecture, which is not blockchain. As a pilot, I think that is okay. But as the ultimate goal, as the blueprint to pay homage to Stellar, I think that is not sufficient. So I think this should be just a step before you get the scalability, universality, full transparency of the rails established through blockchain. Otherwise, it's not Drex. I think they even should change the name,
And just to bring that one step further, the interoperability that this money creates as a possibility. The idea that you could take a digital dollar, a digital yen, a digital euro, a digital real, and have them quickly convert one to another really is the promise of all of this. But they do need to rely on the same infrastructure, correct?
Yeah, and the thing is, Brazil has a sort of a closed economy. One thing that we haven't figured out is precisely foreign exchange. It's actually very difficult to do it in Brazil in a seamless way. So that's why I think stable coins, for instance, are great, because they allow Brazilians to basically have more control of how they do foreign transactions. And it's been adopted by banks and fintechs and so on. But we can figure that out in a different way. So that's why I think the three pillars are PIX, which I think is doing great. When we have Drex, and then we have a third component, which is open finance, which is actually access to financial data, so that you can provide lower interest, and you can create like a more intelligent, even now with artificial intelligence solutions. So I think your point is very important, and there is a very important role for stablecoins to play in Brazil, because it's not that everything has been solved. Pix was great, but it feels to me that these two other points, they can be achieved with blockchain applications and beyond.
Ronaldo, thank you so much for joining us here at the desk and wrapping the show with us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ronaldo.
Congrats on the great work here at
Thank you very
Stellar.
much.
Yeah.
That was the founder of ITS Rio, Ronaldo Lemos. All right, we are at the end of our broadcast. That's it for day 2, Sam, here at Stellar Meridian 2025. Thanks for sitting here with me and learning about LATAM.
I had a great time. I think we had amazing conversations. I'm glad we ended with Ronaldo to really to ground it in Brazil, as we've been doing. I think I want to thank the Stellar Foundation for always bringing us down here to have these conversations. We frankly learned so much.
Yeah.
I'm glad we get to bring this content to our audience. Our production team, great job, really nailing it. And thank you for being a wonderful co-host.
Well, you're welcome, Sam. Oh, thank you to our audience at home who watched today. We broadcast for 2 hours. If you joined halfway through or you're just joining us, you can rewind. This video will be available for you on all of our social platforms, as well as the content that we produced yesterday. Thank you for coming along with us to Rio de Janeiro and learning about what's happening when it comes to crypto right here in Latin America. For Sam Ewan, I'm Jen Sanasi. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.